This is disturbing, but I gotta do this and see if I can post it right away. Okay. I'm watching this documentary about these. I guess you could call them first responders, and this woman has been in two different hospitals treating COVID, and she's talking about the comparative success of things like hydroxychloroquine. And I just gotta say this: it's triggering me now in a way it hadn't before. When I got my high school transcript, its date started in February of 1992. The problem is, I didn't go to high school starting in 1992. In 1992, I was in a public school in another state. It's the only time I really went to, for the most part, I grew up in DoD schools, but I went to a public school in Illinois. And that year, in my biology class, I did a report on malaria. And I've since learned there was a major bond issue for housing bonds in that county that year. And it made me wonder when I got my high school transcript, why does my transcript date all the way back to halfway through my eighth grade year when I was not even in high school? I was in a completely different part of the country, and I didn't go to a DoD school. This was a transcript from the Department of Defense. I did a term paper on malaria, which also had to do with using quinine as a treatment for malaria. And later, when I tried to leave the country to go teach for the second time, I had gone to a bank. It was a private bank, and I had requested a small business loan because my intention was to go down there and to help set up an organic insect repellent that I wanted to use natural products from the area to set up some sort of situation where I could make organic insect repellent because there were problems with mosquito borne illnesses in that area. And the understanding was that if they had the products available, that you could make your own repellent, and if you could prevent yourself or prevent your community from getting the illness, then all of the concerns about getting the medicine and getting the treatment would be mitigated, would be reduced. Now, I didn't even get to go. Someone stole my passport, blah, 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 right? But how much is that right now, is what's going on right now, connected to that specifically? How many people are dealing with R&D or clinical trials regarding vaccines or treatments for malaria or other mosquito-borne illnesses that would have been, maybe, I don't know, connected to those allegations that the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation allowed for the release of a test subject of insects that they were using in their Zika trials down in South America? See, several years ago, there was this allegation connected to a Zika outbreak in South America. And one of the things that was talked about, and then all of a sudden hushed up, was that there had been mosquitoes that had been used in some experiment that they were doing regarding a potential vaccine for Zika. And that they had actually created Zika using these mosquitoes and then released them as part of some sort of effort. Now, of course, the information about that was off the record very quickly. And by the time I came back to America, you couldn't find it anymore. When they talked about Zika, it had a very, very different way of being about it. But this has been going on for a considerable amount of time. What nobody has spoken about was how in January and February, actually January of 2017, the BBC, but also a lot of other international channels were having a lot of talk and a lot of talk radio and a lot of newscast concerning how the global community was concerned about a future pandemic. And there were all these projections and all of these prognostications about what it would look like and how unprepared we were and how decimating it would be. But around the time that they were broadcasting this on the radio, there was also a information that was released by specifically the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation that said the year 2016 and the year 2017 had been engaged as a simulation regarding testing scenarios for response in the event that there was a pandemic. Now, this was done in maybe March or April of 2017 and was almost backdated, as if to say, well, if you notice something strange in 2016 or you notice something strange this year, that's because we're doing simulations around how to respond to a pandemic. But the understanding I had is that embedded on this sort of subtext was an actual activation, almost as if certain groups of people were being implanted in the course of preparing for not a pandemic, but an attack